Happy Dussehra, everybody. So in the north, Dussehra celebrated as the victory of Lord Ram over the demon king Ravana. So what better occasion than this festival to read some retellings of Ramayana and review the same for you. So I have here a lovely carving of wood carving of Rama, Sita and Lakshmana and the golden deer, which is quite the catalyst in what happens in Ramayana itself. And I also have a Kondapulli wooden toy of the Rama Darbar. It's all painted with, it's hand carved and painted with vegetable dyes in the village of Kondapulli. So the books I have for you today are these, and the first one that I'm going to deal with is The Liberation of Sita by Volga, translated from the Telugu by T. Vijay Kumar and C. Vijayashree. I met the author in the Hyderabad Literary Fest, which happened in January in the beginning of the year, and this is an autographed book. Yay! So I love the premise of the book. The book actually deals with Sita's decision to go back to Mother Earth once she has given, once she has sent Lava and Kusha back to Ayodhya and given them to her, to their father, and they can be taken up as the princes of the two princes of Ayodhya. She feels that she's fulfilled her duty as mother, as queen, and therefore she decides to go back to Mother Earth. So in the telling of this story, Sita comes into contact with other women in Ramayana like Renuka, Ahalya, Shurpanakha, and her own sister Urmila, and her conversation with each of these women kind of stay in her mind and seem to have an influence on her final decision to go back to Mother Earth. So I love the concept of the book itself, though the telling of it, not so much. It's not that very impactful. Maybe it's more impactful in the original language Telugu. So if anybody has read it in Telugu, please get back to me and let me know about that. But the concept is really, really fantastic. So there is a sisterhood which is there in the book, and that comes across as very, very empowering and powerful. Taking off from this book, I will go into my next book, which is Bhumika by Aditya Iyengar. In the author's note, he is grateful to Volga and says how influenced he is in his ideas for writing this book by Volga's telling of Sita's story. This is a telling of Ramayana that I've never ever heard before. It's completely imaginative. The first part of it is when Sita has been abandoned in Valmiki's hermitage. She's given birth to Lava and Kusha, and she is just reminiscing about her life and how things went wrong, well, what could have been better, what could she have done, what could Rama have done. So she's kind of analyzing it very, very critically as a looking into it retrospectively. She's thinking about it, and then she meets Vishwamitra, and in a conversation with him, he offers her a drishti into what could have been Sita's life if she hadn't married Rama. And that is where the book takes a completely different tangent from any Ramayana that you would have ever heard. So the book is divided into 3 acts, and it's in Act 3 that this imaginative story happens. And in that imaginative story, Sita is not married to Rama. There is a coalition formed between 3 different forces, very unexpected forces. There is a political ideology probably that is that runs underneath the story itself. It's a very interesting take. I didn't like the telling of it that much. It's not a powerful telling of it. I really wish the author had worked a little bit more on that, because he has a lot of good stuff to say and his imagination is brilliant. So kudos to that. A book that is again similar to Volga's, where a lot of sisterhood is there, is again this book by Chitra Divakaruni Banerjee, The Forest of Enchantment is again. So this is a very interesting take where I found it very interesting because Sita is telling her own story, and she is like a sutradhar where every now and then you can see she's commenting on the various events that have happened, her own character, her own decisions, and that's a very, very interesting genre to bring Ramayana into where Sita's kind of her own, the Sutradhar of her own story. The other thing that I found interesting in the book is that it's kind of a treatise on love. So every now and then there is the comment on love, questions on love, what it makes us do, what it blinds us to, what it opens us up to, which is again very, very interesting, and a very modern way of thinking comes across in that ideology of, you know, questioning that love itself. So there are questions about Dashratha's love for Kaikeyi, Dashratha's love for his son Rama, Rama's love for his sense of duty and honor, Rama's love for Sita, Sita's love for Rama, of course, Sita's love for nature, which plays a really huge role, and which is actually why I'm wearing this particular sari, which is a steady butta, and you can see these lovely small plant motifs woven into the sari. So it's kind of in keeping with, you know, Sita's love of nature and her being the god, the daughter of earth and all that. So she comes across as a healer and whom nature responds to. So again, that's why I wore the sari. So that's again a beautiful, and Chitra is such a beautiful storyteller. She will just trap you in her web of words and you will be immersed in it and you will not want to escape. So that. The next two books that I have are very, very different genres. So the first one that I will deal with is Sita's Ramayana, written by Samhita Arni and illustrated by Moina Chitrakar. And you will see that this is a beautiful, beautiful illustration. In fact, according to me, the language and the words do not match up to the art in the book. And there are some places where the art kind of, you know, as a standalone is more nuanced and more layered and more symbolic than the telling of it, as in this particular page where you can see that Lakshman is drawing the Lakshman Rekha and Sita's inside the hut she's watching from within the, you know, from the window, and then you have Ravana coming dressed as an ascetic. So, you know, this kind of gives you the ideology of, for me it reminded me of a woman inside imprisoned within patriarchal norms. And of course Sita is definitely imprisoned within patriarchal norms. Her life is dictated by those norms. In fact, all the women in Ramayana, if you think about it. So Urmila wanted to go with Lakshman, but he orders her to take care of the parents, and then she just goes and locks her up and stays silent for 14 years. Mandodari, Shurpanakha. In fact, in this book by Chitra Divakaruni, Sita continuously questions about how the whole war starts, possibly because, not possibly, does start because Lakshman cuts off Shurpanakha's ears and nose, and, you know, the insult of that, and possibly. Okay, so this. The last physical book that I have for you on the retelling of Ramayana is Chandrabati's Ramayana, translated from the Bangla by into English by Nabanita Dev Sen. So this is actually based on the oral tellings of Ramayana, and in the eastern parts of India there is a strong tradition of the oral tellings of Ramayana which focus on Sita's story and Sita's sacrifice and Sita's suffering. So this book is in keeping with that, and as a written book, this is probably the first feminist perspective of the story of Sita. And the language itself is not very impactful, whereas the parts that the poet has actually taken and chosen to tell are definitely impactful. So she's not really concentrated on the war itself or on the love between Dashratha and Rama, or even Dashratha with his queens. So she's spoken about it all from Sita's perspective, and that is very interesting and very, very empowering to read. I have one more book that I did read in the digital format, which is again a graphic novel, which is Sita, the Daughter of the Earth by Saraswati Nagpal and illustrated by Manikanda. Now this is again from Sita's perspective. Her, her physical prowess is never in question, because she could, even as a child, she could push Shiva's bow all on her own, whereas it required a battalion, an army of men to move it. So there is no question of her physical prowess, or so, which brings into question kind of why couldn't she save herself from Ravana? She possibly could have. So it's kind of her kidnapping is a way for the killing of the demon, that brings Rama into contact with Ravana and leads to the killing of Ravana too. So there's a lot of backstory attached to it, which I won't go into now. But it really makes you question. So if you take the mythology and the godliness out of the story, then there are a lot of questions that arise about Rama being the Maryada Purusha, completely adhering to dharma, his dharma as a king, his duty as a son, as a king are definitely more important to him than his duty as a husband. So I definitely question, I mean, many of us would have questioned this. It might sound very blasphemous for ardent devotees, but I'm sure even they have this niggling questions in their mind, because I've even heard stories where Hanuman himself questions, Hanuman and Lakshman question Rama on his decision. The other different thing that I found about these books are, in some of these books, definitely in these two books, the story of Sita being the daughter of Ravana. I don't know how many of you are familiar with that legend, but that also plays a role in the plot itself. So these are very, very interesting and very impactful retellings of Ramayana from a very feminist point of view, and I think it's very important that we have these viewpoints also. In today's age where we are speaking about women being silenced, we have a tradition of women being silenced and bearing things and allowing things happen to them. But you see that in some of these cases, these are informed choices that are made by the women. Yes, definitely adhering to patriarchal norms, but still informed choices. They made those choices possibly. Will we make those choices again in today's world? That is a big question, and I definitely doubt it. But as stories, I'm sure Ramayana is going to stay as a favorite and a popular story in India for eons to come. Thank you very much.